All right, so we've started, so you can begin.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Danielle. My group members are Selena Reed and Nyla Modest. Today, we're going to be presenting on Chapter 7 from the Exploring Leadership text. Chapter 7 is called Interacting in Teams and Groups. And basically, what this chapter is going to do is explore the characteristics of groups, the way groups develop, and the dynamics among group members. It's also going to provide some emphasis in terms of the leadership in groups and how it is process oriented. So, what is a group? A group is considered to be three or more people interacting and communicating interpersonally over time in order to reach a goal. And groups are literally found in every area of society. In an average week, you're probably going to meet a multitude of different groups. And the groups can be informal, formal, and highly structured as well. An informal group would probably be like a group of friends. A formal group would be a committee, a group of board members, and a highly structured group would be like government, a government organization, something like that. And how a group is structured has a direct impact on its leadership dynamics. So, usually for highly structured groups, the leader is usually appointed, and a leader can also evolve based on how the person interacts with the group, their knowledge of whatever the purpose of the group is, and maybe their personality as well in certain situations. There are also groups that they don't really require a leader. They're able to operate on their own to achieve whatever the aim is. Um, So how, uh, sorry, I'm going to remind you about the definition of the group. It means interacting and communicating interpersonally over time in order to reach a goal. So any group of people that matches this description, they would usually operate within three key dimensions, which is purpose, structure, and time. So the purpose of a group, it is basically the reason that the group is formed. And the reason it's formed, it's usually done with a specific goal in mind. It directly correlates to the structure because the reason that the group is formed, um, it would influence the structure of the group. So the structure is the way that the group members interact with each other or how the group members interact with each other. For highly structured or hierarchical groups, everyone has a specific responsibility. They are assigned tasks, and each of those tasks is going to contribute towards the achievement of the aim, the achievement of the purpose of the group. It's very organized. And what you usually find in these types of situations, you have informal or sub leaders coming into play as well. Um, so, informal leaders would be persons that are able, that don't have that official title as supervisor or manager or, leader of the group, but they are able to influence decisions. I don't know how many of y'all are employed here, but you might see in certain situations in your workplace, you might have a supervisor, but you might have a colleague that might have a little bit more experience than the supervisor, and you would find yourself maybe going to them to ask their opinion on certain things or, just wanting some guidance on certain things. So for Right, leaderless groups. They don't have a particular leader. Everyone understands their roles. I touched on it just now. The third dimension is going to be time. Oh no, wait, let me go back to structure. So structure, in regards to how the leadership helps group members relate to each other. Of course, with highly structured groups, there would be a certain level of respect you will probably give to the manager that you may not give to someone that holds an entry level position. So that's what I meant in terms of how they relate to each other, in terms of the responsibilities that they hold in the group. It will impact how the group members relate or act towards each other. In comparison to a group that may not have a leader, group members might interact on a plane of equality. They would interact with each other because they feel like they're on each other's level. There wouldn't be more respect that you give to another person. So in that way, that's how the structure impacts group interaction. So the third dimension of groups is the time. So groups can be either time limited or ongoing, and each of those characterizations faces different challenges. So a group that is time limited, they would meet once to discuss a specific issue, and they would be able to complete whatever task that they need within the first 4 or 5 meetings. They're able to do whatever they have to do, plan, get it done, and then the group obviously disbands and they move on. It's easy to keep members of this particular group motivated because they are well aware that they have this one task to complete and then they could move on. They are working towards a specific time, a specific goal, and they know once that is finished, that's it. So it's easy to keep members of this group motivated. For ongoing groups, sorry, time limited groups are often called task force or ad hoc committees. And for ongoing groups, they're usually referred to as committee, boards, or councils. And it's difficult to keep this group motivated because it is being done for an extended period of time. I like to use the government as an example of this. Um, So in terms of for government officials, it's difficult to stay motivated because, they constantly have to remind themselves of the purpose or the responsibility that they hold when they are a part of the organization that manages a country. I think when you lose sight of that in terms of the government setting, that's where government corruption comes into place and the political unrest begins to develop. So for this particular group, it's essential that you keep revisiting the purpose, the reason behind it, and the impact that that group has on the rest of society. So think for a minute about the groups you're involved in. What are the purposes for which these groups were created? Um, what structures help them accomplish those purposes? What roles do group members assume? How do these groups vary in time commitments? And how does the length of time change the dynamics of the relationship of group members? So, how does a group develop? In terms of group development, they have four main stages. The first one is going to be forming. So, the forming stage, this is the initial coming together of the group members. If you're in like a class setting and you're assigned a group project, the forming stage is going to look like you getting group members' numbers, you guys are creating the WhatsApp chat, you all are starting to, become aware of each other, you all are getting to know each other for the purpose of coming together. Um, y'all are starting to respond to each other's emails. Y'all are considering what will the type of commitment to this group mean for them personally. What are the purposes and the missions of the group? what is the agreement needed to make this group functional. The important thing in this stage for all group members to remember, to keep in mind, is to be inclusive and empowering. At this stage, a leader has not yet been appointed, so it's important that every member feels as if they are a leader, like if their opinion is important. And the members that you pick for a group, they should always be diverse. They should always have a multitude of different talents. The more diverse a group is, the stronger it's going to be. You should also identify common purposes and targets for change within this particular stage. So the second stage of development is going to be the storming stage. This is the stage where everyone starts to plan everything. This is the emergence of different opinions regarding the goals and the purposes of the group. If the group was not clear about the purposes and the goals, this is where it gets discussed. The storming stage originally is supposed to be a very short process, but in this stage, what usually happens is that it can be very destructive, or yeah, it can be very destructive because, like I said, you're dealing with differences in opinions. Sometimes the group ends in this particular stage if um, an agreement cannot take place in terms of how we're going to actually go forth to achieving the goal that we set out to. In this stage, trust should also be developed. And once you get past that and whatever issues you have is resolved, you can move forward to the second stage. Storming, right? Sorry. In the storming stage, you need to create a climate where each person matters and builds on the commitment to the group. You have to be ethical, open, you have to be patient. That is extremely important. And you have to handle conflict directly and openly. That is important in this particular stage if you want to move forward in terms of achieving the goal. So the third stage is going to be the norming stage. This is where the group achieves a certain level of equilibrium, the establishment of the group culture, and members are actually beginning to work towards achieving this goal. In a class group project setting, this is going to look like the delegation of certain responsibilities. You're doing this question, or you're responsible for getting these materials, that kind of thing. This is where, you've already gotten past the resolution of key differences. You're establishing formal or informal procedures. For example, you guys need to get this particular aspect of the project done by this particular day. We're going to meet on this particular day to go through this, that kind of thing. That's what the norming stage is for. In this stage, it is important to be fair with the process. Collaboration is essential during this stage, and the new members need to be welcomed and informed and involved. There needs to be a review of each person's responsibility and the expectation regarding their responsibilities in the group, and and their responsibilities in the group. So the final stage is the performing stage. This is the point where the group actually accomplishes whatever goal that they set out to achieve. If if you're organizing a fundraiser, anything like that, the performing stage is the completion of the fundraiser. This is the ending of, or the exhibition of whatever it is that the work was that you did in the past 3 stages being summarized into one event. For The time limited groups, the performing stage shouldn't take very long. Um, but for ongoing groups, because it's something that it's a group that is in place with no particular time limit, you would find that they have to keep repeating those last three stages. So if you have, okay, I'll use the government again. If you have the government, they would constantly be, the people that are involved in that particular sector, they would constantly be on rotation. Different people would be coming into that structure, offering their differences in opinions. You would constantly have to be repeating the forming, the norming, and the storming stages over and over again. The norming stages in an ongoing group would look like, um, let's say, yeah, I'll use the government again. Let's say, certain times are changing. You need to evaluate certain laws and that kind of thing. That would be the changing or the editing of those laws or those policies so that the country can continue to run properly. Um, so you just basically have to keep repeating those three stages. So the performing is where the group actually accomplishes the goal that they set out to achieve. During this stage, it's important to celebrate the accomplishments and find renewal in the relationships between group members. Group members also need to empower each other to learn new skills and share roles in new ways to stay fresh, and purposes and commitment also needs to be revisited and rebuilt during this stage. So the absolute final stage, of course, the adjoining. This is only going to relate towards the time limited group. It is the period of closure that group members experience. This is, we acknowledge that we have done everything, we have gone through all of the process to make our goal successful, to accomplish the aim, and we acknowledge that we no longer need to be in a group together, so it gets disbanded. So we're going to move on to the next topic, dynamics in groups.
Okay, so first off, what is dynamics in groups? So this can be defined as the various processes that occur within a group, such as decision making, conflict management, and leadership. It is a study of the group's behavior and interactions with each other. So first up, we have group rules. So the foundation for understanding group dynamics is recognizing that individuals in a group engage in communication patterns that signal rules that are adopted, such as group building rules and task rules. Group building rules focus on relationships among members, while task rules focus on accomplishing the purposes of the group. Dysfunctional rules can hamper the group's progress, while helpful rules facilitate the group's goals. Each individual has a preferred set of practices or rule sets that they are most comfortable with in a group. Effective groups need participants to practice both tasks and group building rules, and it is useful to know which rules the group needs and ask someone to engage in them. So here we have some examples of a few common roles in groups. So first up, we have information seeker. So this is someone who is aware that the group needs more facts or data before proceeding. Then we have opinion seeker. This is someone who shares one's views, feelings, or ideas, so the group has the benefit of one's thinking. Then we have opinion giver. This is someone who shares their views, feelings, or ideas. So, oh, sorry, I repeated that one. Um, we have next up we have summarizer. This is someone condensing the nature of the opinions or discussion in a capsule format for clarity. Then we have encourager, welcoming all individuals and diverse ideas, responding warmly to promote the inclusion and empowerment of others. And then lastly, we have follower. This is an active listener who willingly supports the group's actions and decisions. So would you all say anybody in the class could answer? You could raise your hand or you could just open your mic. You know, if anybody plays any of these roles a lot, like it could be like in group projects or like in work, everyday life, anything.
Yeah, I would say I'm the encourager, follower, and the previous one before opinion.
Okay, great. And we don't even notice, like, we actually share a lot of these common rules, like in our school, like in our workplace, and even social media. So, like, for example, you could be an opinion seeker in your groups in school. Like, you would want to share how you feel about certain ideas and stuff like that. You want to be heard. You want everybody to, contribute to your ideas. And you could be an information seeker, let's say in your job. You want to hear from everybody how you could build up the company you all work at. You want ideas thrown at you and stuff like that. And you could actually be an opinion giver, let's say on Twitter. That's like the main purpose of Twitter, share how you feel and everyone can interact and stuff like that. And you could actually be a follower on Instagram, which a lot of us are. We look up to some people, that we follow. We support them. We listen to all their opinions and stuff like that. And we don't even notice. So moving on to group norms. So first, we need to discuss the importance of group norms and how they contribute to the group's climate or personality. So, norms are rules of conduct that lead to consistent practices in a group, and they can be explicit or implicit. So, here we have a few examples of both types of norms. First up, we have Robert's rule of order in a meeting. Then we have arranging chairs in a circle, celebrating birthdays, congratulating group members on their accomplishments, or starting each meeting with introductions of new members and groups. So, group climate can be open and supportive or formal and impersonal, depending on the norms that are established. So, to create a desired group personality, it's important that we consider the norms that will lead to the desired outcomes. So now we're going to move on to creative conflict. So, first off, what is conflict? We deal with it all the time. So this is really just something that's often seen uncomfortable for people, but it can arise from clashes in personalities, differing expectations of roles, or disagreements over ideas. Conflict can be handled by returning to personality and learning preferences, being focused on understanding others, and thinking about assumptions being brought to the conflict. Controversies need to be handled with civility and open dialogue. A lot of people just avoid conflict by ignoring it or just like pretending it doesn't exist. Like this will call for the saying, like having an elephant in the room. I'm pretty sure a lot of you all have heard this saying before, but that's just how it goes. So true communities resolve conflicts rather than avoid them. Negotiation and mediation strategies should be employed instead of power strategies when conflict is confronted. The resulting conflict resolution outcomes can be a win-win or win-lose or lose-lose situation. In win-lose outcomes, one side uses power strategies to win by outtaking, putting down, or even rushing to a premature vote. But this only creates like a loser. The participants who lost and their potential allies feel marginalized, angry, and even resentful. So here we have like a few examples and advantages and disadvantages of conflict. So I'm gonna read them out to you all, and I want you to think about how these can be advantages in conflict, whether it be between you and your boss, or you and your mom, or you and a classmate, and stuff like that, right? So the first advantage we have is that it can increase motivation and energy, clarifies issues and positions, can build internal cohesiveness, can lead to innovation and creativity, can increase self-awareness, may be a means of dealing with internal conflicts, can lead to a new synthesis of ideas or methods. And now we have disadvantages of conflict. So first off, we have it can be debilitating, it can distract from goal achievement, can cause defensiveness, can cause distortions of reality, often becomes a negatively reinforcing cycle. It tends to escalate into, a lot more serious situations, and efforts to resolve are most often not reciprocated. So reciprocal and relational models of leadership encourage processes that will promote inclusivity and empowerment within groups. Ground rules should be set to guide the openness and honesty with which conflicts can be raised. So, for example, agreeing that everyone will have a chance to be heard, who wants to speak, and that the group will, look for points of agreement as well as disagreement. These ground rules can create an environment that is safe for differences, and conflicts are useful when they raise perspectives that need attention before the group moves to resolution, and decisions should be informed by the broadest possible thinking. Okay, so we're gonna move on to group decision making. So we're gonna start off with participative leadership. The values are in participative leadership acknowledge that a better decision is made and receives a greater acceptance when those involved are part of the decision process. This encourages group members to feel empowered, learn to interact in teams and groups, learn more effective leadership skills, and sustain a higher commitment to the process when others are involved. Do you all agree with that? Like, do you all feel like a lot more comfortable and a lot more involved when you're in the decision making process?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, I agree, because it really does help you feel a lot more motivated, whether it's like in work or school. It just makes you feel to, come or participate. So when it comes to formal settings, about the authority and the role of participants in the decision-making process, people tend to have particular expectations on what they want. Indeed, often demand a role in the decision-making. So, like, for example, parents that want to be involved in school-based management and employee involvement in selective benefit packages. So, according to Johnson & Johnson, 1994, there are 5 methods of decision making. So first up, we have decision by authority without discussion. And then we have expert member, average member's opinions, decision by authority after decision. And then lastly, we have majority control. So moving on to relational leadership. This should promote consensus models whenever possible. But groups may also use minority control or majority control, depending on the situation. Now, consensus doesn't mean that every single decision is made by the entire group, nor does it mean that a majority vote equals reaching consensus. A part of the important task of teams making decisions and interacting in teams and groups is that most teams prefer to reach consensus on critical issues. But all in all, when group members feel empowered and learn effective leadership skills, they are more likely to sustain a higher commitment to the process. Like what I spoke about earlier, wanting to be involved, it makes you feel heard, So we're going to move on to teamwork.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I will be talking about everything that is on teamwork, why it is important, and the differences between working in groups and working in teams. This topic is much of a heavier topic, so I'll try my best to make sure that everyone understand. So, starting off is the definition of teamwork, which is the capacity to collaborate with others and assist others in maximizing their abilities and achieving the shared objective. Teamwork must be of top priority and must be given constant attention. Everyone must understand how important it is for them to work well together if they want to be successful. When difficulties arise, which they always do, the team must have the resources, they must have accountability and the commitment to deal with them constructively and positively. So as we see in here, these are the advantages and disadvantages of teamwork. So starting off with the advantages, they are more create more productivity. The quality of work will be up to standard. It offers a forum for communication. It creates better risk management, develops development of motivation for others, and effective decision making. Now on to the disadvantages. It will create a lack of trust, definitely create team conflict. It will have time delays. It will create competition. Most people get stress from teamwork, and there will also be personality clashes, which I'm sure most of you have encountered. Some of them within your co-workers, colleagues, and others here. So now we go on to groups and teams. There are these are the definitions for groups and teams. A group is a collection of people who work, interact, and collaborate to achieve a common goal within a given time frame. And a team is a group of people who performs interdependent tasks to work towards accomplishing a goal or a specific objective. Working in teams and groups are two diverse ways to reach a goal or objective. While they both are similar, these two are different when it comes to decision making and teamwork. According to Hughes, Gannett, and Kirby in 1993, distinguished between groups and teams, they noted that although both may have the characteristics of mutual interaction and reciprocal influence, teams have much more of a stronger sense of identity and common goals or tasks. In addition, interdependence is higher within a team than in a group, and team members, they usually have more distinctive roles than group members. And these that we are seeing here are the characteristics or differences between working in groups and working in teams. So on the left-hand side are the characteristics of working in groups. A strong, clearly focused leader is appointed. The general organizational mission is the group's purpose. Individual work provides the only product, and individual accountability only is evident. And on the team side, shared leadership responsibilities exist among members, a specific, well-defined purpose that is unique to the team. Team and individual will develop products, and both team and individual accountability are evidence. So next we have, according to Parker 2023, there are three common types of teams, which are functional, self-directed, and cross-functional. Starting off with functional. Functional teams, for example, hierarchical organizations in which power and authority are contained at the top. Members from various vertical levels of the hierarchy perform specific organizational functions. A functional team, in other words, is made up of a manager and his or her subordinates for a specific functional area. Accounting, human resources, and purchasing are some examples of functional teams. Next, we have self-directed team. A self-directed team is typically a group whose members possesses all the technical knowledge and skills to accomplish a small goal, within a certain degree of power delegated to it by a leader or manager. A self-managed team work without managers and oversees the entire work processes or segments that deliver goods or services to external or internal customers. Self-directed work is intended to give a Give employees a more sense of ownership over an entire job. Team members typically have broader job assignments and cross-train after other jobs due to shared team's responsibility for work outcomes. Cross-training allows for greater team flexibility. And then we have cross-functional teams. They are usually composed of individuals from a variety of set skills, departments, or areas that combine skill sets that no one person possesses. These are composed of experts from various specialties or functions who collaborate on various organizational tasks. Members of the team come from departments such as R&D, design, engineering, marketing, and distribution. These teams are frequently given the authority to make decisions without the approval of management. Although functional teams are typically permanent, cross-functional teams are typically temporary, lasting from a few months to several years, depending on the group task being performed. Next, we have SMART goals and objectives for teams. In order for teams to be successful, they must have well-defined goals. Teams frequently fail to take the time to develop goals or set goals that are unclear and unachievable. This is extremely important when completing a goal. So, having all S, which is specific, these goals are precise, they are clear to team members, partners, or any group member, giving them an understanding as to what the goal is aiming to do. Measurable. It is critical to set measurable goals so you can monitor your progress and remain motivated. Assessing progress allows you to stay engaged, meet deadlines, and feel the thrill of getting closer to your goal. The questions that measurable goals addresses are how much, how many, and how will I know when it is accomplished. These goals can either be quantitative or qualitative. Let's see how achievable or achievable. In order to be successful, your goal must also be realistic and attainable. In other words, it should be challenging while remaining feasible. When you set an attainable goal, you may be capable of discovering previously disregarded opportunity, information, or resources that will help you get there. Which is relevant or realistic. This step ensures that your goal is important to you and that it aligns with other important goals. We all need help. We all need help and support to achieve our goals, but it is important that we maintain control over and last time. Every goal requires a target date so that you have a deadline to work towards. This component of the SMART goal criteria prevents daily tasks from taking precedence over long-term goals. So with that being said, can anyone give me examples of SMART goals if you have any?
To complete my studies in 2024.
Okay. Anyone else?
Like developing a business plan.
All right, all right. I have some examples myself. So starting with just now, 1 minute, starting with specific, the example is to improve the bench strength of the sales and marketing departments for measurable, reduce turnover to less than 10% and recruit and hire at least 3 people each quarter. Achievable, salary and recruiting budgets are adequate to achieve these targets. Relevant, sales and marketing are key drivers to the company's revenue and profitability. And last time, a mix of quarterly and annual objectives. Next, we have team leadership. The management of a group of people brought together to work towards a common goal is known as team leadership. A team leader's responsibility include assigning followers to tasks, supporting members, and supervising projects. Keeping track of projects in team leadership situations requires accountability and the ability to shift gears. When things do not go as planned, the leader must be adaptable and flexible. The leader oversees getting everything back on track and getting the team to work together to complete the project successfully. There are two critical functions of leadership, which are team performance and team development. With its emphasis on process-oriented and purpose-oriented leadership, the rational leadership model stresses the importance of both of these functions. Achieving the goals of the group, making decisions and plans, achieving results, and solving problems are all examples of team performance. Team development entails fostering productive relationships, creating an atmosphere where everyone feels valued, and fostering team cohesion. On the screen here, we have characteristics of team leadership, which are clear evaluating goals, result-driven structure, competent team members, unified commitment, collaborative climate, standards of excellence, principled leadership, and external support. The next slide we have the four design components needed to establish teams, which are task structure, group boundaries, norms and authority. These four conditions are important at the beginning stage of team development to allow the team to work effectively and efficiently. So with all that being said, in conclusion, groups are the foundation of communities of practice. We work in a variety of groups that are at various stages of growth. This chapter discussed group development theories and group dynamics concepts that guides group behaviors, such as decision-making, conflict resolution, and team leadership. It is important or critical to understand the distinction between groups and teams, as well as the deliberate process of transforming working groups into productive teams. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening, and I do hope our presentation was very informative. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'll pause the recording.
No questions, sir.
All right.